Oh, let me make Rhiannon a co-host so she can let people in.
George just texted he's almost in.
He's
Yeah.
in.
I made it.
Would you like to get started, or would you like to wait for Michael Miller?
Let's just get started.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Chelsea Shore-Miller. I am the program manager for the Region 10 Opioid Abatement Council, referred to as Gateway to the Rockies, or GROC. Today is our April Executive Committee meeting. We'll start with attendance and quorum. Commissioner Dahlkemper.
Here.
Commissioner Marlin.
Here.
Commissioner Hollingsworth. I know she's here. Sandy is here.
I was talking down. I'm here.
Dr. Ryan.
Here.
Marie Larson.
Here.
Someone from Fiscal Contact. We have Amber Dower. Amber is here for the record. And then I am here. Do we have anyone from the community who needs to check in? Amber said, Amber, she's here. My mic is not working. We got you. Thank you. And then Michael Miller is coming late, and so Rhiannon will take that when he gets in. General update. Commissioners Hollingworth and Marlin and I were able to meet Rep. Pedersen on Wednesday of last week for her talk about the Medicaid bill. So that was super exciting, getting to comment on how if this Medicaid bill reforms in the way that it is drafted, that would exhaust opioid settlement dollars even quicker. We are at an intersection to really leverage Medicaid and opioid settlement dollars to build sustainable financial systems for substance use disorder support. That was amazing. General updates for contracting. JCMH is looking at a July 1st start date. Some of that, again, has to do with trying to keep some clean lines of when awards start and when they end. And some of that has to do with some internal transitions, restructuring, as well as them timing the new market tax credit. Jefferson County Sheriff's Office is still waiting on their congressional award contract. Mountain Youth Network is also waiting on their EPIC award contract. Since I initially sent out this meeting materials packet, they did get their award contract, and Rose is working on the revised budget right now. I did make a minor amendment to Lakewood Police Department. They were having some issues hiring, and so they reduced their required qualifications to preferred qualifications. This is still aligned with our other co-response programs, and it's still aligned just with requirements in general for licensure. So we view that as an administrative amendment. Then we have summit planning. So the draft policy does need approval, and once the policy is approved, then the Excel spreadsheet with the initial invite list will be emailed to the advisory committee and then presented to the full council at the end of April to finalize the invite list. Carrie did have a chance to review the policy after Monday when I sent out the meeting materials. And so what is in your meeting materials packet is slightly different than the attachment I sent out roughly an hour ago. I do have that up on my screen. Most of the revisions really just come from articulating the purpose of the summit or the strategic planning work session. How do we stay in alignment with open meeting laws while still being considerate of the intention of the summit or strategic planning session, and working within capacity and budget needs. So the first section of the revised policy draft has a little introduction that outlines this document is specifically for the 2026 strategic planning work session, referred to in the document as summit because strategic planning work session is way too long to write. And the purpose is to identify regional gaps, assess community needs, and inform future directions across the Tri-County region. in support of the 2028-2030 strategic plan. As a reminder, the state does require a 2-year strategic plan be submitted and amended as appropriate in order for funding to be released. So our next 2-year strategic plan is, I guess this should be 2029. Because it's calendar year 28 and calendar year 29. No, it's 7. It's 7. Math. I'm watching Rhiannon's face. I'm like, wait, the numbers are not adding up. It's 2027 and 2028. Yes, that's the cycle that we're on, because it's calendar year 27, calendar year 28. That is 2 years, 24 months. The session is not a funding opportunity. It is a structured strategic convening designed to incorporate regional expertise and form future priorities. Due to capacity and the regional scope of the council's work, not all organizations, particularly those operating within a single county, may be selected to attend. Non-selection for participation does not impact eligibility for future funding opportunities. No decisions will be made at the summit. The idea is just to gather a bunch of information. All of the input will be synthesized or summarized and presented at the November council meeting where voting will actually occur. Invite list. Again, this is more just like internal processes. And then here's where the actual policy starts. Outlining the objectives, the participant categories, how additional participants are selected or informed, and then there is an implementation policy. Floor is open for discussion and a vote on accepting the policy. I want to defer to Carrie first to see if there was anything else.
No, that was a great summary, Chelsea. Thank you.
Sandy.
Oh, so you mentioned that you had something regarding the open meetings laws. So what did you put in there? Or is it okay to have more than one commissioner?
Yes, because it is a strategic planning work session and no voting is occurring at the meeting.
I'm pretty sure that my county attorney is going to suggest that we post it as a public meeting.
Yes. Yes, I would agree with that. Commissioner.
Okay. Thank you. And I also
Wait,
am
so
fairly confident.
If we post it as a public meeting, but people can't attend unless they're on the RSVP, unless they RSVP.
You know, here's what I would just suggest. I agree. I think we need to post it. And, you know, Chelsea, I suspect we won't have members of the public. And if we do, there will be a few. And we could even have a section or a table if we do have members of the public attend. It has not been an issue in the past, so it should be okay.
Yeah.
With GROC growing and the funding climate right now, what are we going to do if we have 100 extra people show up, even 50 extra people show up?
We will. I think that's a fair question. I would be surprised if we did, but if we do, I think that, you know, we could even embed in the introduction, we could say, we could ask if we have any members of the public who are with us, please stand so that we can acknowledge you. And we have a section here for members of the public. We can do some talking points around that. We've actually had to do that for the Jeffco Wildfire Commission when we've had some of our just regular public meetings. And I think it'll probably be okay. I do, but let's plan for worst case scenario for sure. I mean that in a positive way.
Yeah. Worst case scenario being there's a bunch of interest. Sounds like a real good case. Something we can think about this down the road, Leslie. You're right. We don't have to solve this problem today, but if we can provide for even people to be able to observe remotely, right? Public meetings don't mean that people get to be full participants. It just means that they have to observe. And so maybe we can like have it be broadcast on Zoom or something. And there are solutions to this, and I don't know that we have to identify them all today, but
And I agree with all of those comments, commissioners. I think that, we can have an overflow room with it being remotely. As we get closer, we'll have a better sense of capacity. And I think some of Chelsea's concerns were driven by one or two particular entities. And I think where we're landing is a good space, as far as posting notice, letting folks know what this is about, and the statement that this does not exclude someone from applying for funding as a result of this. That attendance here is not mandatory or required in order to qualify for funding, which should address any public members' concerns.
Yeah, and I see you have references to those things in the policy, so that's good. And then Chelsea, on another level too, if you're worried about like refreshments and all that, you can just issue a meal ticket to the invited people and just, do that if you're worried about the public eating all the food or anything, because sometimes that happens in our meetings. People show up and we'll have things off to the side, and yet here they come. So it's okay. I think they think it's their taxpayer money.
Yeah, I'm concerned about having like enough t-shirts, enough print, enough catering, enough space. And then I'm also concerned about the intimacy of a strategic session becoming individual advocates for their specific funding area instead of looking at the county as a whole, and then that driving how funding opportunities are structured.
I think we can facilitate all that. I really do.
Okay.
And also this room that will be, it will be the community room at Red Rocks Community College.
Yes, and I'm visiting
Okay.
that this next week.
Okay. When you see it, you will see that it is
Okay.
a huge room. And then there's also a separate area in the back just for food too. So
Perfect.
that's sort of a contained area as well. And you mentioned t-shirts. We should talk about that too, just in terms of in terms of optics. But again, I think I am all in for any sort of planning group that you're putting together, and we can unpack this a little bit further. But I think it's going to be okay. I really do. And I think we should plan for all of these different potential scenarios. And
May
I
I?
think you're absolutely right too. I'm so sorry about the certain members of the public who may come and say, oh, these are taxpayer dollars. We have encountered the exact same thing at one of our Muni commissioner breakfasts, but we'll work through it.
Okay. Rhiannon.
I was just going to jump in, and I think George, Leslie, Sandy might recall this from previous years, but I believe we had used an actual registration link before, even for public members. And this enabled us to get a read on food and like the subject matter expertise of the public members who were planning to attend, which enabled us to better prepare our agenda and think through like group sizes or sub talking points. And so I just wanted to drop that in. I didn't hear anyone talking about that. And Chelsea, I don't know if it jives with how you're planning things, but having just like an Eventbrite registration link that you have everyone that is planning to attend register for, you get like dietary needs, you can ask about t-shirt size, and that's one way to kind of control and monitor who ends up showing up and be like better prepared.
Yes, I do have that already
So I have a question.
drafted.
Okay.
Who was that?
It seemed like when people that you're selecting are involved, and so it's not an open forum for public comment. So if people just show up, then they would be, as George said, the word observer. So they would be there to observe, but we're not inviting them all to talk. Or are you wanting like random public people to be engaged in conversation?
No.
No, agreed.
which is the expectation in every public meeting that we have.
E- e-
And so some observe and then some are invited to participate. And this doesn't even have to be, doesn't have to be a public meeting of a public body in the same way a commissioner meeting is. Like we can manage this. Chelsea, I'm happy to talk to you offline as well about it. One thing that I think might just to help you by way of explanation, I have viewed and used this event for my county as a way to like invite / engage people in the county that aren't formally on the GROC, but do have like whose enthusiasm and involvement we need, right? Like our coroner is a great example. And so and especially in my context, I mean, I'm going to need to be getting other commissioners involved. You've got actually 2 commissioners that are probably going to be looking for other commissioners to be there this year in particular. So I can see that I'm kind of rambling now. I do think that does speak though to the objectives portion of the policy. This might speak to the elevating regional and subject matter expertise. But I could see an objective that is just like expanding awareness of the work and expanding sort of the, I don't know, like stakeholder engagement in the work, you know, et cetera, sort of like broadening the tent here beyond the typical GROC meeting.
So do we want any revisions to the policy? Do we think that the policy captures all of these concerns?
I would like to add, like, I see elevate regional and subject matter expertise. Maybe does that capture, maybe just as a third bullet, or as an item 4, just that we really are trying to broaden the engagement here. Broaden engagement beyond stakeholders that are formally on the gateway to the Rockies Opioid Commission or its advisory council, something like that.
I also wonder if there isn't something around, we have always said that transparency, I think it'd be great to go back to our core values. We have said that transparency and accountability is also an important part of the work. And I wonder if there shouldn't be, we've got informed the regional strategic plan, support intentional funding design, development of upcoming funding announcements and strategic investments. And I think it would also be good somewhere in here, whether it's a 4th item or somewhere under the 3, where we talk about our accomplishments to date and how that aligns with the outcomes that we've identified. Where are we? What does that look like if we were to have a dashboard? How are we doing? What are we seeing in terms of results? What don't we know in terms of results? I mean, I think it's really important. And part of this could be in the talking points. This could also potentially be a panel without getting too much in the weeds. It's a real look at, accomplishments and challenges to date, or accomplishments and opportunities ahead, or something along those lines that circles back to transparency and accountability. Really taking ownership about what has worked well so far, what we're continuing to focus on. You've got it in here. Is that what you're showing?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. I think the 3 areas highlighted: GROC and review, a grantee panel, and then looking ahead.
That's great. Do you think that we need to somehow reflect that as one of our big 3?
I expanded 1.
Okay, that's great.
To
Perfect.
review GROC progress to date and gather input to refine the future.
Okay, I think that's perfect. That's great. I like that a lot. I would love to pull up, not now, but I would love to pull up our list of core values that we all agreed upon and have those front and center as we're thinking about design and looping back to those as we design the conference content and the speakers and making sure that we're reflecting our geographic diversity and more. But I think this is a great start. I love support intentional funding design. And do we have a small, no, we decided the executive committee was, did we decide the executive
Yeah.
committee was going to be the sounding board and not create a small working group?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't want to like.
I don't have any other comments. Others, if you all have other comments on this document, now would be a good time to share them. I don't know if it's the final chance to influence this thing, but
I don't have any. Hey, our internet went down here at the courthouse for a little while, so I missed a few minutes of your discussion. But I did read ahead.
We added review GROC progress to date in number 1. And I think you were still here for Georgia's comments on and engagement beyond voting advisory committee members in number 3.
Yeah.
So the policy does have to be adopted before we can discuss the invite list.
So you need a
were you
motion?
thinking
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to adopt the policy as described before us.
I'll second.
I'll second.
So motion by Commissioner Del Kemper, second by Commissioner Hollingsworth. We'll vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything. I'm only on one screen today. That's my problem. And so we will go ahead and adopt this policy. So now we can look at the initial invite list. And then again, I'm going to send this to the advisory committee to review and suggest recommendations for changes. And so this list might be slightly modified for the April 27th meeting. This is really, I want you just to be a quick glance. No motion or anything here, just again, a quick glance to make sure that I have everything. If you know a name off the top of your head.
Chelsea, did you also draw from the previous conference list and then overlap with new partners and?
No, I do not have access to that. I'm working with Rhiannon and Judy to get some of those historical documents.
I might have some of that too.
Yes, those would be appreciated. So it really came down to there's 23 voting members with the support team, the 14 alternates, there's 13 advisory committee members. I have 30 spaces for grantees. And so like most of the grantees have 2 spaces. I did give AFRC 3 spaces so they can have 1 rep in each service area. Same thing with the Resilience 1220. They're serving all 3 areas, so I gave them an extra spot. Participating local government has 33. Lakewood has 4 people named on the state contact list. I made a note to only give them 2. That would be 31 spaces in participating local government. Keeping it that 150 cap, that leaves 16 spaces open for community members. I'm currently at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere between 4 and 6 open spaces. I did want to save 2 spots for Jeffco PR to come and help make some content and help with videoing. Judy is the commissioner's executive assistant who is helping me with planning. Thinking of some of those. So this is like really where the who is invited section is expanded.
Chelsea, I
Yes.
noticed that on Gilpin you have Sam Bauer, but he's not with the county anymore. And I
Okay.
noticed that you had our county manager, but not the Clear Creek County manager. Did you notice that, George?
This
Is that
is
right?
just based on the state contact list.
I see.
So
So,
if the Clear Creek County manager is not on the state contact list, then they wouldn't be on my initial list. That doesn't mean that we can't change it. These are
right.
just, Peter is the only person listed for Clear Creek County as a contact.
Let's, as far as the county contacts, well, first off, when do you need this to be final?
End of April. So now I can send it to you guys because we have a policy. So I'll go ahead and I'll email this out. That way, in the interest of time, we're moving forward. I will go ahead and email this out to folks to review the list and comment. I'm going to email it to the advisory committee so that they can comment. And then I will take all of your comments and bring them to the April 27th meeting. That is really when I would like it finalized so that I can start the initial round of invite. Going off of this timeline. That way I can send round 1 RSVPs through the month of May. And then I'll review how many spots we have available. We'll go through this process again in June with the leftover spot. The second round of RSVPs will go out in July. And then in August, we're looking to finalize our count.
So I think I have a question just for some folks on the executive committee. Is everybody okay with kind of letting us finalize this invite list in a more informal way, like not, just because what I'd like to be able to do, and I imagine the commissioners from the other two counties, is just kind of look at this list, allocate some seats, and then use our local knowledge to figure out kind of who needs to come. I'm seeing some stuff on that list that you pulled that doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Clear Creek. It's not who I'd prioritize necessarily. Like I'm seeing 2 people from Empire, just as one example. And
these are the participating local governments that make up Region 10. So Empire is part of Region 10. They would qualify for cross-regional collaboration. So I think them being part of Region 10 and having a specific invite to the regional council is important.
my observation, Chelsea, there's only
Yeah.
one person from Idaho Springs and 2 people from Empire. And so rather than get into all those details here, I'm asking the executive committee members if they're okay with letting the commissioners kind of sift through this list a little bit and make sure it works for our counties, at least these county invite portions. And I'm not trying to exclude municipalities by any means.
I think it'd be good to know how many per municipality, because like in our case, I don't know if anyone's going to show up from either. So I hate to have a couple spots held and then not hear back and then not fill it.
Well, they would have May to RSVP, and if they don't RSVP in May, then we would give away those seats for the second round of RSVPs that go out in July.
Yep. And one way I can improve this list is to point out that we don't need to invite Jeanette Peel twice, and rather than have that whole conversation here is, and this is why I'm asking the members of the executive committee if they're okay, or, and Chelsea, if you are not okay, this would be a good time to say you're not okay with just the commissioners sifting through this list a little bit.
May I make a suggestion? I think it would be great if we could take time as an executive committee. Chelsea, you probably had hoped we might be able to do that in time for this meeting, but it would be wonderful if you could send us the link, which I think you may have done in an earlier email, I'm not sure, but just this link, and give us a deadline to get back to you with some themes. Any concerns, any recommendations for folks that we think we should attend? I think it's really important to hear from Tim, to hear from Michael, other executive team members on this as well. And I did look back in unfortunately, I don't have an attendee list. Oh, I have an invite list link. I've got an email invitation. I've got sample scripts. I've got news releases, all those kinds of things. So that could actually help us down the road. But I really think we should think about the balance, the goals of the conference, and how the participants, mesh and align. So let me ask you this. What was your deadline again for getting out the first batch of invites?
I was going to send you and the advisory committee the list today after the meeting and ask that you had your comments to me by next Monday, April 20th. That way it
Perfect.
could go out in the full council meeting materials packet at the end of the day on the 20th for April 27th. This list would be reviewed at the April 27th meeting. First round invites will go out May 1st and are due on May 31st. And then we'll review that invite list at the executive committee meeting May 11th.
I think that sounds great. Does that sound okay, George? Or
I'm not sure. Maybe one way to reduce the pressure on this is to not ask the full council to have to approve this invite list. I don't know that that's a great use of that body's focus. I think what we need is we need a small group to spend a significant amount of time thinking about this. And, I'm not trying to exclude like Dr. Ryan, Michael Miller. If you guys have comments, I want to welcome them. I'm not trying to exclude anybody. I'm just trying to identify who's responsible to give this a careful look based on, local knowledge.
yeah, my feeling is that I think all the executive team members should weigh in if they have thoughts, share those with Chelsea. They may be broader thoughts about, the makeup of the participants or specific ideas of names and people, or just finding things like doubling up like you did on the list. And then I'm open to your comment about about the council approving it. I'm not sure. I can't remember, Rhiannon, if we did that last time, if we had them approve it. I think maybe they looked at it just to see if there was anyone we forgot, but.
Yeah, so my recollection of how both previous years functioned, we put together a work group, which was basically this team. And I believe we asked council members if anybody wanted to be on that work group. So we had like a couple less involved people contributing in that work group. We met a couple of times to like finalize an agenda, review the attendee list, and confirm it. But then the chairs at that time ended up like approving the final say on the list. I don't think we had the same level of limitations in terms of who to invite though. So it was like kind of a rolling list and people would just add or delete or change instead of like certain slots per municipality, which makes sense as well. But I think to that reason, we probably need a little bit more of time to go through and review.
I'm just going to
Did that make sense what I just said?
Yeah, I'm going to point out on the policy that we just approved, it says that it's drafted by program manager, reviewed and vetted by the advisory and approved by executive, and period. And then the next round too. So I thought that was already decided that it wasn't going to the full council on the first list, unless people can't make it. Did I misunderstand that?
Okay, so in the interest of time, because it's 1:38 and I do have a lot to get to, I am going to send the list to everyone on the executive committee and the advisory committee after today. I'm going to ask for all of your feedback by the 20th, and then I will delegate 5 minutes of time at the final council meeting on the 27th to see if there's any last minute input. This is just the first round. But I do need to move on and not spend a lot of time here. So the next order of business is the regional strategic plan update. And so on row 13, I added JCMH. This is an additional Excel spreadsheet. Where is it? I need to zoom out. So row 13, we added JCMH, Soteria Landing. So money has to be moved into that 2.5 million obligation. And this is categorized the exact same way their award was categorized for their state infrastructure share. I would not categorize it that way, but we're going to work with consistency at the state. Line 17, 16, and 18. Just so folks are aware, Exhibit E is extremely dense. There's 134 approved uses. Part of revising the strategic plan from early 2025 was using the council's language and transitioning that into the Exhibit E language. Not everything had a one-to-one match, so some holding places were used. Every time I go back into Exhibit E, I'm like, wait, this actually might align better with what the conversation was. So for the first one, training for emergency room staff, I asked if we should change it to I1, other first responders, and then I put the description here because the advisory committee wanted this training for anyone who would have direct contact with an OUD call. And so it's kind of like a hybrid between these two. Same thing for recovery-friendly workplaces. This was specific from the Gilpin voting members. Did we want to change that to G12 or A9 with support greater access to mental health services and supports, support workforce development for professionals? What was more aligned with the conversation? And finally, telehealth services, A5 mobile intervention. And so the recommendation from the advisory committee at this time was not to include them in the strategic plan itself, but to include them in the funding announcement as like these both qualify, both of these descriptions qualify under this plan. And then only revise the strategic plan if we have an application that is better categorized under mobile intervention versus telehealth services, or first responders versus emergency room staff. That I think that's a good call, is not recategorize them yet, but include those descriptions in the funding calls. In row 22, I updated how Mountain Youth Network was categorized in our Excel spreadsheet to match how it was categorized in the cost system. I initially had just duplicated the language here. Minor change. I added funds to cover the Omni Amendment for facilitation support and Laura for facilitation support. So that is under this one, line 28. So I included all those numbers here. Row 31, I added the expense of 6 registrants to the national conference. So that would be right here, line 31. Line 32, I removed collaborative cross systems coordination and infrastructure because that previously held, that was this line right here, the rapid response fund, which is now moved into down here, our accrued interest. So we put the rapid response fund here, we put a UNA for the next 3 years here. And so that did result in redistributing the unobligated funds in the yellow cell. So the number is 7.3 million, but anything in yellow, and this is an even number in all of the cells that don't have something obligated yet. And so the total next general RFA that we have would be that $7.3 million. Something I did notice is a gap in our priority population, pregnant and parenting women, which is the E series. When I explained this to the advisory committee, they also suggested don't add the E series to the strategic plan now, because in our application, we specifically ask who your targeted population is, and we're still leaving it open to anything in the targeted population. And this is really just an administrative categorization complexity. Any questions, comments, or concerns before I make this amendment in the cost system?
None from me. Thank you for tracking all this. And I know in the past when Rhiannon was doing it, we largely left it to her to figure out how to take our broad goals and make them match with cost. And I'm comfortable with that moving forward. I mean, I appreciate your attention to detail and transparency, but
Ditto for me. All of the above.
Are those motions and seconds?
yeah, I'll move that we update the strategic plan or recommend. Are we recommending an update to the strategic plan? Is this going to the GROC?
No, this would go into the cost system.
So this body has authority to change the strategic plan?
We're not, I guess, no.
So this is where so that's why I said what I said earlier. My understanding is that we already delegated to you that revisions at this level, like I think you already have the authority to go into cost and make these revisions. These are all based on decisions that have been approved. Like that's my take. Anybody disagree?
No, I agree.
I do appreciate your transparency.
Okay. From now on, I'll present it as just an update. That way people know what I'm doing with the dollars.
Thank you, Chelsea.
I don't want to just like take that authority. Okay, next order of business are some grantee playbook amendments. And so the first one is that we updated the contracting section on pages 8 and 9. I reviewed this with Carrie. Carrie approved it, and that is just put in writing what our contracting process looks like. We revised language around indirect administrative costs. And then I actually have a meeting with the state next week to talk about this further because they are preparing to issue guidance on this. And I think we have I think fundamentally we don't have conflict. I think in how we articulate it, we have conflict. So this might get revised again. I did suggest a late invoicing policy. Huge thanks to Amber for contributing to this. And this basically just states that if you're not going to invoice me on time, you have to notify me in advance and get approval. If you have a $0 invoice, which we know with implementation, sometimes that happens, you still have to submit a $0 invoice. That way we know that we didn't miss you. And then if you want, also in the late invoicing policy, it talks about like if you want to move from the 10th to the 15th or from monthly to quarterly, you have to let me know. You can't just miss an invoice. So that is what that policy describes. And then finally, I approve this for 2 grantees because we don't have a policy on it, is using unused dollars for salary as a hiring bonus. And so I did draft a policy for that on pages 20 to 22. And so this would be like if Denver Recovery Group, for example, was having trouble hiring a clinician in January and February. So if they wanted to use what they would expense in that salary as a signing bonus for someone in March, that they could do that. They did have to outline explicit terms on they have to be working at the organization for 90 days before that bonus gets paid out. They had to demonstrate that they were making efforts to hire, what their challenges were, what their corrective action was. It wasn't that they could just do that. They did have to have a conversation with me about how that looked, and get permission to do that first. So questions, comments, floor is open, and then looking for a motion.
This all makes sense to me. Anybody else want to flag anything?
No,
No
I think it
concerns
looks
for me.
good. the way it was written up. I also like, because you didn't use the word bonus, you used incentive or something like that. Chelsea, I just thought of a question. So if they're gonna use part of the funding for the incentive slash bonus, what if they continue to have difficulty hiring? Are they gonna ask to increase the incentive over time? Or is there a set incentive amount?
I think I wrote the policy to be pretty ambiguous while we figured that out. It's the two groups at Denver Recovery Group and Lakewood PD. So far, they only have 2 months worth of salary for a single position. And I know Denver Recovery Group did hire after that. And then Lakewood is still working on how they hire. And so I might come back to the table with Lakewood. But they do have to submit a budget for funds. If the line item is greater than the 10%, it would have to come to this committee for review. So it's like 2 months that keeps them under the 10%. Once they hit 3 months, they're looking at something greater than 10%. And that would come here for review.
I'm asking in part because when we decided to do a sign on just for like safety sensitive, but we set a parameter that was known because in case someone got hired, they lasted long enough to get it, but then they didn't stay. And then the next person got hired and it wasn't available or it was less. They'd be like, hey, wait a minute. But so I think it's good to have it set at a maximum or just an amount so that it can't change over time.
It would have to be a percentage because everyone has different salaries and different positions.
I think
Like,
that'd be okay.
the variability is way too big across all the grantees. So it would have to be like a percentage or like no more than 2 months worth of the salary.
Yeah, I think just some maximum parameter, because just in case there's some hiring oddities, since they're having a difficult time hiring anyway.
So I added that right here for eligibility not exceeding 2 months. And again, even if it's over 10%, that would still come to the council. I haven't seen this yet. This is thinking ahead. So this is really a preliminary policy. And once I get I think like Denver Recovery Group was like not even $6,000. It was like, I want to say it was under $5,000, which was not even 1% of that line item budget. And then for Lakewood PD, I'll probably have to bring that back to this council because they are going on like 3 months of a full FTE. So I would imagine by the time they hire, it's closer to like 4 or 5 months. So I would say right now this is, and I can just put like, baseline policy. That way, that leaves it open for revision as the situations come up and we start to see what real parameters we need on this.
Okay, that
That
sounds
makes
good.
sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think the addition is good.
Um,
I
Yeah.
am satisfied with it being the program manager getting that delegation. I don't think it needs to come to the executive committee. Do others disagree with that?
I'm going to bring it here as I get them, because this is a refining policy. And then we can talk about, I think once we see the first one come in, we can talk about what the delegation limit would be.
Okay. So then
Okay.
down below that's only executive committee. Got it. If that's what you're comfortable with, then happy to have it.
Chelsea,
I
are you
think-
still looking for, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry,
Commissioner Ainsworth.
I turned off my camera because I'm on my phone now. I would say that my general view is that the executive committee setting the policy, and then you, Chelsea, are implementing it. And so I don't think that every change over time needs to come to us, but if you want to do what you just said and do the initial one just to have further discussion, that sounds great. But in the future, I think if they want to bring something to you, I would also feel comfortable delegating that to you.
Perfect. So yes, looking for a motion.
So just to clarify, the motion is to adopt the proposed changes to the grantee playbook.
Yes.
All right, that is my motion.
I'll second that.
We'll vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything. Rhiannon did comment, once final, this could be a good thing to review with folks at a future grantee learning forum. That is the plan. Just so people know this is an option for them. I think this will really help with hiring delays as we encounter them, which I'm sure will occur. Yes. Okay, so next review is supplemental funding mechanism revisions. And so these are supplemental pages in the meeting packet. The first one is the cross-regional collaborations rubric approval. And so I included the application just so folks could see it. I did include an other section when we talk about Exhibit E alignment or our strategic plan alignment, and they would have to list the Exhibit E letter and number. And then that way you can see what the analytic rubric looks like, keeping with the request to have a standardized rubric and application process. I took our special projects rubric and I really just changed number 9, justification for the cross-regional collab outside of the RFA. That's the only thing I changed in the rubric that we've seen. And so that question is this should be 9, not 10. So that is the first approval. I'm going to break this up into 2 parts.
You need a motion to approve that?
Yes, and that's going to be just the rubric for cross-regional collaboration.
All right. I move that we approve this update to the analytic rubric.
I will second that.
Vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything. Okay, so now I'm going to break cross-regional collaboration down into a second because this did actually come up. So eligibility for cross-regional collaboration is that they are a participating local government in Region 10 or that they are another ROAC and we are expecting some type of matching award for them. And so tab 2 in the strategic plan in your meeting materials packet, I'll drop that in the chat for folks to shows how regions are using their local share or if they've donated money to the local to the regional share. And what do we do if their request for cross-regional collaboration is not aligned with the regional strategic plan. And so, for example, Mountain View has donated $1,000 to the regional pot of money, but they are seeking funds for a mobile response unit. I don't have a lot of details beyond that. It sounds like a co-responder program. But if they do categorize it as mobile response, that is not in our strategic plan. Mobile intervention, we have telehealth services. Are we still going to approve the dollars? Do we have a process for that? Is this something that you would like me to think through? We can have it as a case by case basis, because I did just add this other section in alignment with the regional strategic plan, and they would have to list the exhibit E letter and number, and we could just grade it based on the rubric, not necessarily strategic plan alignment.
Chelsea, are they wanting to apply now and instead of waiting for the full RFA next year or later this year?
I just had an initial email with them, and then because now we have a timeline of the RFA opening in January, the thing is that if we open cross-regional collaboration, they're probably going to apply. If we don't open cross-regional collaboration, then they have to wait.
And I know that at the press conference and then also otherwise, I think we're all feeling a nervousness about until the state budget is approved, because I feel like if we open the cross regional, the applications are just going to pour in. So, and I know we wanted to kind of see how those that are funded now, how they do this year, and kind of maybe do some refinement with applications before it's released in the fall. I have a nervousness about all these people are like, oh, there's money, I'm gonna go for it. Yeah. And just from the few sentences you said about their idea, I don't know if that's duplicative of things that already happened in our counties that aren't working out so well, like the mobile mat.
I'm looking at the timeline that we publish. I didn't say that we would open it. I just said that we would debrief it, and then we're focused on renewals. So I think we're okay to not open this until 2028. We have a lot going on, building out the EUNA application system, building out budget and budget revisions in EUNA, and just refining again all of these processes. So I think we just debriefed it and finalized it. We didn't say that it would open. And then we did say, like, odd years is the general RFA, even years is supplemental funding.
I agree with all of that you just said. That makes sense on a capacity level too.
Okay. Oh, I
I
did
think
say
so. I mean,
supplemental
there's
funding can open, can open.
We can change our minds based on
Yeah.
the debrief.
Chelsea, a cross-regional collaboration can qualify under emergency funding or one of these other categories that could result in us reviewing an application without opening an RFA. Is that correct?
They have different purposes. So we can open rapid response, like people can apply through rapid response. And that would once we open the LOI, the letter of intent phase, and then the full application phase, which we're talking about today. The eligibility requirements and the justification for funding in each one is different. I don't think we should open these yet. Just like, yeah, capacity wise, thinking through this, right? We did close the rapid response and we did close special projects because we needed to review those application materials. So all of our supplemental funding mechanisms are currently closed.
Yeah. Okay.
The one that would open the soonest would be special projects. But we have some based on the user testing, we have some things that we need to fix on that. And then just with the timing of the renewal applications, I don't think I can open that. That my focus
Okay.
is on the renewal applications and all of the budget amendments that we have doing right now and audits. And I know Dr. Ryan left. I don't think that we are at quorum anymore. Oh yeah, Amber and I still count as quorum.
Are
So,
you? I don't think you're on this committee, Dr.
yes,
Shore.
I am. I am. And so is Amber as a voting member. Do you want me to pull up the resolution?
No, I believe you. I'm just
Okay.
it just surprises me. There's a lot of detail to track, and so I miss things. I believe you that it's in the resolution. It would be the only time I've seen us put a staff person as a voting member
Yeah, and that
in any
resolution was
context.
made. Yeah, that resolution was made before I started, so I'm not sure where the historical context is. But then when I joined, there was a whole conversation with Eric Butler because like I don't see myself as a voting member on this, and Eric was like, "You're listed," and so is Amber. Amber and I typically abstain from voting unless we don't have quorum.
If we've got a quorum, we've got a quorum.
Yeah. Michael Miller
I
did say in the
see.
chat, I fully agree that we should pause until existing processes are, I don't know what these GIFs are smooth, contracts in progress, revision, deliverable, invoice tracking, eval, etc., especially considering the renewals barreling towards us quickly. Yes, thank you, Michael. Rhiannon said that she can give history if we need it in terms of me and Amber as voting members in quorum.
I don't think we do. I wanted to be confident that we had a quorum. And so, do you think that this body needs to make a motion to approve not opening this, or is this a heads up? You're not going to do it unless we ask, and so we don't have to do anything here.
No, I think how we wrote it in the timeline that we did publish was that we can do it, but after the user testing, we're just in the timeline of like when this is happening, we just don't have capacity to open it yet. I think we still need a lot of refinements in all of the processes before we open them. So like I'm not asking for this today. Just if you like think of things, I'm going to add this to our next executive committee meeting is like, what is our policy or approach if they request funding that is not in the regional strategic plan? I would say that that is an action item to think about for next month. And then moving on to the rapid response, letter of intent process and policy. The letter of intent, an application prompt and rubric for this kind of like two-phase rapid response, that is very straightforward. But the policy governing the LOI before the application is really where we need the greatest precision. And so that is included right here. So starting on page 25 of the materials packet, I did include the rapid response funding application as is, just for reference. And then we did vote to use the alternative hybrid rubric. So that is here for reference. And then here's what the letter of intent would look like starting on page 23. This is all the standard information that automatically goes into every UNA application. Then we have the disclaimers of transparency, the legal transparency disclosure. Carrie and I talked about this, and she's going to make some revisions to this. And then again, strategic plan alignment. And then this is where capital yes or no, name and proposal, dollar amount, and then this is the rapid response justification. It says emergency. It's the rapid response. It's emergency justification. That's what they would fill out in the letter of intent. And then we would use, yes, it meets criteria. We invite them to a full application. No, it does not meet criteria. They can't reapply for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have timeline considerations. And this is like really where we need to dig into this, is that if it's option one, all decisions go through the executive com, potentially full council. We're looking at like a 75-day turnaround time. So it's like not really rapid response. It does work administratively, but it's not very responsive. Thank you to Omni for commenting on these options. We are recommending option 2 is to delegate the LOI approval. And so I would review the LOI and use like the pass fail criteria, and I would invite people to a full application or not. I would report all of my LOI decisions at the next available meeting, whether that would be the executive committee or the full council meeting, who can override the LOI advancement. So if I say no and the committee or council think yes, then it could still go through. If I say yes and the council and committee say no, then we just don't review the application.
So it's just an option for you to fast track. I really like that.
Yeah. And then again, the governance safeguard is that it can be overridden. Final consideration, final funding decisions remain tied to meeting schedules. So we may still introduce delays if applications don't align with the meeting schedule. Significantly improves the fund speed while maintaining governance controls. We included draft policy language. Applications are on a rolling basis, but you have 5 days to do your full application. I will review it. The full application will be reviewed 5 days. Funding decisions remain tied to the meeting schedule, public notice, your LOI, and then this is really just like based on funding decisions must occur during publicly noticed meetings. Approval is tied to the fixed meeting schedule. As a result, the timing of submission is a key factor in overall process timing. To support timely consideration, you should submit 10 to 12 calendar days prior to a scheduled meeting. Requests submitted after this time frame may be deferred to the next available meeting cycle, which may result in a delay of up to 4 weeks. So we do give a timing notice. And then we give you examples of what that timeline looks like. So if we use June, the executive committee meets on June 8th, full council June 22nd. LOI review, I can review it within 2 business days. You have 5 days to submit your application. We have 5 days to score it. So here's what the dates look like. I'm not going to read these out loud to you. They're in your meeting packet for you to look at. It's appropriate at this time, I think, for you guys to say that you want more time to read through these policies, and we revisit this in May. Like I said, we're not in a hurry to open these just because we do have existing awards. We are implementing a UNA, and just getting training on how we implement a UNA, how we use a UNA. renewals are happening in July, so our focus is there. I would say it's appropriate for you guys to table this, and I add it to the May executive committee meeting, and we revisit this policy.
I think
To see
that's
which one
wise,
you like.
especially given who's still in the room. For what it's worth, I think the policy is in really good shape, but we can take a little bit more time to look at it.
Perfect. So I will add that
Jenny?
as an action item in the email, is just to like review these based on the table.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was reading along on the screen while you were talking, and it's all laid out really clearly. And that one says it's 20 to 30 day time frame approximately. So that makes it more rapid, which is good.
It's very rapid. I mean, I intend that term relative to waiting for a biannual RFA, not like, you know, if somebody had something happen that's going to need a response in a week, then I mean, I just don't know that anybody can jump in time, right?
Correct.
So I'll get off my hobby horse here, but
So we will go ahead and table that, and then we have the April 27th draft agenda that needs approval. So I have that right here. And Rhiannon, you told me like 8 times, and I have 2 sticky notes that have Omni on here, and I did not put you on here.
Wait, this is May. We're in May.
Oh, yeah, you're in May. Okay.
You're doing great. Yep,
I'm doing great.
we're May.
Yeah, okay, this is April
All is well.
27th. We were just talking about May, so I'm ahead. Okay. So this is just a heads up on Jeffco Public Health. They are going to present their needs assessment at the May 18th meeting. And so I did want to hold a little bit of space here for Michael Miller and his team to just get some, what is the council looking for? Michael and I had talked about the needs assessment team, which is the external evaluator or the external team, presenting the results of the needs assessment, and then Michael Miller presenting the what does this mean for revising and amending the award and their budget section. But if there are specific questions, comments, points of discussion that people would like to see addressed, I did want to allocate a little bit of time to just tell people that this was coming. We'll go over, I did 10 minutes for the summit planning, the final invite list. Again, I'm going to leave this on here, even if we go straight to the executive committee and say, like, you guys are the people who vote on this. I do think giving the full council a chance to review it, saying the executive committee has commented, this is the list that we're saying on, any last minute kind of changes for the first round, I think that makes sense. This is a general update. I'll give them a notice of what the strategic plan revisions were that we made. The playbook amendments say the recommendation that is that the executive committee approved it. The final delegation is still with the full council to approve it. And then we'll talk about, again, the supplemental funding mechanisms that we talked about today. So this would be a spot for the executive committee to really weigh in on thoughts. Again, this final delegation is with the full council. And I'll probably let you out like 15 minutes early. Is this looking good? Yeah.
I think it looks great. Does anybody else have any comments?
I just have a question. You had sent out an email. I can't remember who got it, but wondering about who was going to present the public health needs assessment.
Yes.
And so I thought there were replies that we wanted the assessors to present it and not public health themselves. Is
they
that what
are.
you're planning?
Yeah. So they are going to present the results of the needs assessment. And then Michael Miller's team will present how does this amend the initial application? Are they still going to be doing outreach in Gilpin to the level that they said they were? Does that line item budget change? So he's talking specifically about the award and the budget.
Okay.
But the needs assessment team is talking about the outcomes of the needs
What they
assessment.
found. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds perfect. Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael, I just have one quick question for you on that, since we're talking about it. Have you been in direct contact with Clear Creek Public Health about these results in this amendment, or will they see it for the first time in the GROC meeting?
We have not talked with them directly at all, primarily out of fear of running afoul of conflict of interest issues in advance of the results being delivered.
Do you know if the needs
Um,
assessment team has presented the results to Dr. Ryan and Elisa?
I believe they're preparing some sort of final package. So if it would be helpful for those to get transmitted in advance of the meeting, let me know and I can make that happen. It'll be coming directly from EQI.
Carrie, do you have an? Sorry, go ahead, Sandy.
I would say I would recommend sending it to our 2 public health entities ahead of time so they can read through it. And then they can come prepared with any comments.
Then we'll just plan to have them send it to Dr. Shore Miller instead, so that she can just share in advance to everybody that might have questions. I think that'd probably be the most appropriate way to go about it.
I'm curious, Carrie Markle, do you have an opinion on this? We know we want to navigate this in a way that doesn't, create or indulge conflicts of interest. What guardrails do you suggest around advance notice of a proposed amendment to this contract to the other public health departments?
I think
then,
that,
Wait,
go ahead,
timeline?
Chelsea.
Yeah, timeline wise is that meeting materials go out the week before. So the needs assessment and the revised budget proposal will go out on May 11th. If you want me to send out either the needs assessment or the budget or both sooner, let me know.
And I think that Michael's suggestion of having Chelsea to provide that notice is appropriate, and she and I can look at that together. But typically, we can handle that, I think, administratively. But if you have specific concerns, Commissioner Marlin, please let me know if that doesn't address.
My concern is just basically, I'm aware of a desire for the response to this information to be, I think the right term here is co-designed.
Sure.
And I think that desire might be strong enough that my public health department would opt to not vote on a proposal that was brought over being asked to vote on it without having had a hand in designing it.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of curious and I don't want to hold things up for you here, Michael, but I'm curious, Carrie, can you come up with a mechanism that is legal and ethical? Because of course that, to allow for some co-design here to take place.
Yeah. If we can go offline, Chelsea and I can come up with a proposal that perhaps addresses your concern. But I don't know how that timing will fit with Chelsea's proposed timing. That would be, we can always come up with a solution. I just don't have it off the top of my head right now. So what kind of timing do we have to resolve this?
I would say that the April 27th meeting.
Sure. I think that's completely doable.
And we can talk about that. I'll give us a few extra minutes here and we can talk about that here. And
Okay.
we might decide that the results get presented to the full council on the 18th with a proposed budget, and then we go into work group sessions. We don't actually vote on approving the budget. We go into work group sessions with all 3 public health teams facilitated by me. And then we report back at either the June 8th executive committee or the June 22nd full council meeting for a vote on the budget. So the 18th can be just a presentation, no vote on amendment.
That sounds like a worst case scenario to me, Michael. I know you're trying to get these services rolled out. I can I just, I think without knowing
we can talk about it
the
at the April
materials.
27th meeting.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to facilitate a little bit of conversation offline about whether we can find an approach that we think is appropriate. And Sandy, I'm curious, is this a Clear Creek and Gilpin County adventure, or is this specifically something that Clear Creek thinks it would be wise for us?
No, I agree. I think that the sooner that each public health can see what is being proposed and what the findings were, that's great, because I remember back when there were full applications for things that came from Jeffco Public Health, and there was pushback from both Clear Creek and Gilpin about, no, we're already doing that, or they have no idea. So I think just getting them into the conversation to promote buy-in and clarity is really important, because the worst is when it happens in a meeting, and people are attending. So I think prior notice and prior review for both of the public health would be beneficial in many levels. And I know Marie's still on. She probably doesn't want to comment, but I think just because you're going to be wanting to implement things in the public health realm outside of your physical county, just getting the buy-in from both is really important.
So I think what we can do is I will give us a couple extra minutes on April 27th for this agenda item. I will work with Michael and Carrie in the background to come up with some different options for how we roll this out. And it might be, it's sounding like worst case scenario is that the meeting materials will go out on May 11th. So that'll be the first time that everybody sees the result. May 18th will be just a presentation, no voting. We used the June 8th executive committee meeting as a work group meeting with all of the public health departments. Again, that would be facilitated with me and legal. And then we'll vote on the outcome of that work group meeting on June 22nd. That would be like worst case scenario. But we'll, again, Michael, Carrie, and I will come up with some options and present them at the April 27th meeting to see what works best for everybody and how we move forward with this.
I just that sounds like a reasonable approach, something that could work out, and an option that I can ask for some feedback on. I don't want to extend this past 2:30, but maybe I can just have a conversation after this. Is what does it look like for us just to embrace that? Public health departments aren't going to be voting on this because they've co-built the proposal, right? And so maybe that means that I have a conflict of interest, Dr. Ryan has a conflict of interest, Sandy has a conflict of interest, but then the rest of the committee considers the application. That may be a route that is more expedient, and that may result in, all three counties being happier with the outcome.
Okay.
So I want to throw that out there, and then we can talk about it in a little bit. I don't want to extend this meeting. Thank you all. I appreciate your time already.
No, and I appreciate that suggestion, Commissioner Marlin. That sounds compliant with the conflicts issues, as well as being transparent about the decision-making process.
All right, remember April 27th is hybrid. We will be in Gilpin. We also have a time change, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. I will see you all then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.